Welcome back to Demolition Worker. Today we witness the ultimate mechanical beast, a massive baler transforming giant train steel into compact cubes. After tearing apart these massive locomotive shells, we are left with towering mountains of jagged steel that desperately need further processing now. Enter the colossal industrial baler. This magnificent piece of heavy machinery is specifically designed to compress unyielding train parts into dense blocks. A heavy-duty excavator steps in, utilizing its powerful hydraulic grapple to lift enormous sections of the dismantled train into the air. The massive steel plates are unceremoniously dropped into the deep rectangular compression chamber, sending thick clouds of ancient rust into the sky. Notice the incredibly thick steel walls of the compression chamber. They bear the deep scars of countless battles against unforgiving scrap metal. Another heavy load of twisted wreckage is violently dropped inside. The deep chamber is now completely filled with chaotic train car remnants. High up the ground, the skilled operator firmly pulls a heavy steel lever to initiate the incredibly powerful hydraulic compression sequence immediately. A gigantic hydraulic lid slowly begins its terrifying descent over the filled chamber, locking the chaotic steel pieces inside a dark prison. The heavy metal lid easily crunches down on protruding pieces of train steel, bending them instantly as if they were fragile aluminum. With the massive lid fully secured, the machine vibrates intensely as the primary internal rams prepare to deliver thousands of tons pressure. Deep inside the darkened chamber, a monstrous steel wall begins its relentless forward march, driven by incredibly powerful hydraulic fluid pumping rapidly. You can almost hear the thick train steel groaning in agony as it violently buckles under the sheer force of the machine. A highly reinforced steel beam from the train undercarriage unexpectedly snaps like a dry twig, sending a brilliant shower of bright sparks. Outside the chamber, the massive hydraulic pump station works overtime. Thick industrial hoses visibly throb the extreme pressure of the fluid. The pressure gauge inside the control cabin rapidly spikes into the red zone. But our experienced operator watches the entire process calmly. The primary ram pushes relentlessly forward. The once chaotic pile of locomotive metal is now reduced to half its original physical size. Decades of accumulated rust and dirt are forcefully squeezed out through the machine gaps, slowly purifying the valuable steel hidden underneath it. The first compression stage concludes. Now, a secondary ram engages from the side, crushing the weakened metal from a completely different angle. The terrifying sound of screeching metal echoes loudly as the side ram easily folds thick steel plates over each other like paper. Watching this giant machine crush heavy train parts into small cubes is easily one of the most satisfying industrial processes on Earth. The sheer mechanical violence happening inside that steel chamber is completely hidden from the outside world beneath thick layers of painted armor. Every single piece of this old locomotive is slowly losing its original identity, merging into a single dense mass of solid steel. This specialized baler exerts over 1,000 tons of hydraulic force, easily overcoming the structural integrity of the toughest railway steel components. Thick steel plates that once protected passenger cars and carried heavy cargo are now being folded and crushed without any noticeable resistance. The final compression ram engages from the front, pushing the mangled heap into a perfectly uniform rectangular shape at the far end. This three-way compression system guarantees that the final scrap bale reaches maximum density, leaving absolutely no empty air pockets hidden inside. The immense friction generated during this extreme crushing process actually causes the metal to heat up significantly, radiating warmth into the air. If you look closely at the machine joints, you can see thick industrial grease working hard to keep the massive pistons moving. The operator carefully monitors the final pressure readings, ensuring the dense steel block is perfectly compacted before releasing the heavy hydraulic doors. Suddenly, the heavy front gate of the baling chamber slowly rises, revealing the final product of this incredibly violent mechanical compression process. A perfectly formed rectangular cube of solid train steel is pushed out into the daylight, still steaming slightly from the intense friction. This dense cube weighs several tons, yet it is now small enough to fit easily into the back of a standard truck. The heavy block falls from the exit chute with a massive thud, shaking the ground beneath our feet and kicking up dust. Looking closely at the finished bale, you can still recognize tiny fragments of train wheels, crushed pipes, and twisted metal siding panels. It is incredibly fascinating to realize that an entire section of a massive railway car has been reduced to this small block. A large forklift approaches the ejection zone, easily sliding its steel forks under the newly formed scrap bale to transport it away. The heavy machinery carries the dense steel cube across the busy scrapyard, adding it to a massive growing wall of identical blocks. This towering wall of compressed train steel represents thousands of hours of demolition work and countless tons of perfectly recycled industrial materials. Without this powerful baling machine, transporting these awkward and jagged train pieces to the melting furnace would be a logistical nightmare today. The baler operator does not stop to rest. The heavy hydraulic lid opens again, ready to consume the next batch of steel. Another massive scoop of jagged locomotive wreckage is carelessly dropped into the hungry chamber, starting the violent crushing cycle all over again. This relentless machine operates all day long, constantly eating through mountains of discarded trains and spitting out perfectly uniform blocks of profit. The rhythmic sounds of roaring diesel engines and screeching metal create a unique industrial symphony that echoes across the entire demolition yard. We position our cameras closer to the action, hoping to capture the exact moment when the thick steel beams finally surrender completely. The immense hydraulic pressure builds up silently before releasing a devastating wave of kinetic energy that instantly shatters the hardened steel joints. Sharp shards of broken metal occasionally shoot out from the top of the chamber, proving why strict safety protocols are absolutely necessary. The sheer scale of this recycling operation is truly mind-blowing when you consider how many trains are dismantled here every year. Each perfectly compressed block of steel is a vital step in the global recycling supply chain, preventing further unnecessary iron ore mining. These scrap bales will soon be loaded onto massive cargo ships, traveling thousands of miles across the ocean to enormous melting facilities. Inside the roaring electric arc furnaces, these blocks will melt down in minutes, transforming back into glowing liquid steel for new construction. The incredible journey from a working passenger train to a rusted scrap pile and finally into a dense cube is truly beautiful. Let us take another look at the compression sequence, this time focusing on the intricate hydraulic mechanisms powering this unstoppable mechanical beast. Huge cylindrical pistons, thicker than a large tree trunk, slide smoothly out of their protective housings to deliver the crushing final blow. The bright silver finish of the hydraulic shafts contrasts sharply against the dark, grease-stained environment of the busy industrial demolition yard. Even the toughest structural steel used in railway construction is absolutely no match for the relentless, unforgiving power of modern hydraulic engineering. As the third ramp pushes forward, the metal groans in a deep, resonant tone that vibrates right through your chest and bones. The resulting scrap block is so densely packed that it looks like a solid piece of metal rather than crushed individual parts. Every single void and empty space between the mangled train parts has been completely eliminated by the overwhelming pressure of the machine. This level of extreme compaction is absolutely necessary to maximize the efficiency of the melting process at the final steel production facility. We watch as another freshly minted steel cube tumbles out of the machine, landing heavily onto the scarred concrete floor right below. The heavy forklift returns immediately, scooping up the new block and swiftly carrying it away to join the massive inventory stacking area. It is deeply mesmerizing to watch this continuous loop of destruction and creation happening right here in the middle of the scrapyard. The baler never seems to tire, consistently applying thousands of tons of force, hour after hour, without showing any signs of slowing. Routine maintenance is crucial for a machine this powerful. Workers regularly inspect the hydraulic lines and replace the heavy steel wear plates. Without proper lubrication and constant care, the extreme friction generated by crushing steel would quickly destroy the internal components of the baler. The operator relies heavily on his experience, listening carefully to the sounds of the machine to detect any potential mechanical issues early. A sudden change in the pitch of the hydraulic pump could indicate a dangerous blockage or a failing valve in the system. But today, the machine is running perfectly smoothly, chewing through the remains of the old locomotive fleet with incredible speed and efficiency. The mountain of raw train scrap is slowly disappearing, replaced by neat, orderly rows of identical steel cubes waiting for final transport. This transformation is visually striking. We go from chaotic, dangerous piles of jagged metal to perfectly safe, stackable building blocks of industry. It represents the ultimate triumph of human engineering over raw materials, forcing chaotic waste into a highly organized and useful physical form. Every block produced here today will eventually become something entirely new. Perhaps a skyscraper, a bridge, or even a brand new train. This endless cycle of recycling ensures that valuable resources truly lost, but simply reshaped to serve a completely different purpose. The sun begins to set over the busy demolition yard, casting long golden shadows across the towering stacks of compressed scrap bales. The fading light highlights the rough textures and metallic colors of the crushed steel, creating a surprisingly beautiful and artistic industrial scene. Even in the twilight, the massive baler continues its loud, violent work, illuminated by bright industrial floodlights mounted high above the yard. Sparks from the crushing metal occasionally light up the darkening sky, adding a dramatic visual element to the ongoing mechanical destruction process. The night shift operators take over the controls, ensuring that the relentless pace of scrap metal recycling continues without any unnecessary interruptions. We step back to admire the sheer scale of the operation. Hundreds of steel cubes are now stacked neatly in the yard. Each of these heavy blocks tells a unique story of transportation, engineering, and eventual obsolescence, now compressed into a silent geometric shape. The demolition of a train is a complex process, but this final baling stage is undoubtedly the most visually satisfying to witness. It provides a clear sense of closure. The old train is officially gone, reduced to raw materials ready for a new life. Tomorrow, a fleet of heavy transport trucks will arrive to carry these blocks away, clearing the yard for the next demolition project. The cycle will begin again. More trains will be cut apart, and this incredible machine will continue to crush them into cubes. We hope you have enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of heavy industrial recycling and extreme metal compression process today. The power of hydraulic engineering never fails to impress, especially when applied to something as massive and unyielding as solid railway steel. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the final stages of the locomotive life cycle in the scrapyard. Make sure to tune in next time as we tackle even bigger demolition projects and explore more incredibly powerful heavy industrial machinery. This has been another exciting episode of Demolition Worker. Stay safe, respect the machinery, and we will see you next time.